Aisha Ndlova finally allowed herself a slow, peaceful morning. She was lying back in a warm, scented bath at a luxury spa in Gaborone, laughing softly with her best friend as they enjoyed the rare break. For once, there were no client calls, no fabric samples to approve, no deadlines chasing her. Just calm water, soft music, and the smell of jasmine oil drifting through the air. As she closed her eyes, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was the reminder for her monthly savings transfer, something she had set up years ago. She couldn't help smiling with pride. Every pulla in that account came from her own hard work, from the long days she once spent selling fabrics on the streets of Francistown. She had built her business with her own hands, stitch by stitch, dream by dream. But the peace didn't last. Her phone rang again. This time Tawanda's name flashed on the screen. She almost didn't answer, not wanting to ruin her moment. But when she picked up, his voice hit her like a cold slap. Aisha, come home. Now. No greeting. No explanation. Just that hard, sharp tone she hadn't heard before. He sounded angry, or scared, or hiding something. She couldn't tell, but her stomach nodded. Is something wrong? She asked, sitting up straight. Just come home, he repeated, even colder this time, before hanging up. Aisha stared at her phone, the warm calm around her suddenly feeling thin and shaky. Something was waiting for her at home, something she wasn't prepared for. The storm had just begun. Aisha walked into her home, her mind still buzzing from Tawanda's cold phone call. The moment she stepped inside, the air felt heavy, almost like it had been waiting for her. Tawanda was sitting on the sofa, his posture stiff, his eyes fixed on the floor. Not a single glance in her direction. The warmth she expected after a long day at the spa was gone, replaced by icy tension. On the other side of the living room, Mama Rutendo lounged on the couch, her lips curved in a smug smile, as if she had been expecting this moment for a long time. Aisha felt a chill run down her spine. Something about the way Mama Rutendo looked at her made it clear that this was more than just a bad mood. This was personal. Sit, Tawanda said without looking up. His voice was flat, controlled, but Aisha could sense the anger simmering just under the surface. She hesitated for a second before lowering herself onto a chair opposite them. Mama Rutendo's tone was sharp, cutting through the silence. Aisha, you've become too independent, she said, as though she were listing a crime. A woman of your position should not be keeping money in her own account. That money belongs to the family, to your husband's family. Aisha blinked. The words hit her like stones. She had always known that Mama Rutendo had strong opinions about tradition, but this was different. What are you saying? She asked cautiously, trying to keep her voice steady. In our tradition, Mama Rutendo continued, a wife must place her wealth in the hands of her husband's mother. That is how it has always been done. You are breaking our custom, disrespecting the family. Her eyes were hard, unmoving, daring Aisha to challenge her. Aisha felt her stomach tighten. She thought about her business, her house, her saving, everything she had built with her own sweat and sacrifice. How could they even think they had a right to any of it? She realized then that this wasn't a casual complaint or a sudden outburst. This was a trap, a calculated, strategic ambush. They had been waiting for the right moment to corner her, to make her look like the villain for wanting to keep her independence. Tawanda finally looked up, or rather, glanced at her briefly, but there was no warmth, no recognition. Just a cold, empty stare. You know what we mean, he said softly, almost whispering, but the threat in his tone was clear. Aisha felt her heart race. Her safe home, the life she thought she had built with love and care, suddenly felt like a battlefield. And in that moment, she knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The real test had begun. Aisha had barely settled into the tension-filled room when Tawanda suddenly stood up, his face red with anger. Transfer every pulla you own to my mother's account. Today. No argument, he barked, his voice echoing off the walls. Aisha froze, the words hitting her like a lightning bolt. She blinked, thinking she must have misheard. What are you saying? She asked slowly, trying to process the shock. I said everything. Your business earnings, your savings, your house, all of it, Tawanda repeated, his eyes wild, his fists clenched at his sides. Now, Aisha's mind raced. Every pulla in her accounts, every hard-earned kwacha, was the result of years of struggle and sacrifice. She remembered the early days, standing under the hot Francistown sun, selling fabrics piece by piece on the street, dreaming of a life she could call her own. She had built her business from scratch, sleepless nights, tiny profits, and endless determination. This wasn't just money, it was her independence, her freedom, her identity. I won't do it, she said firmly, her voice steady despite the fear twisting in her stomach. It's my money. I earned it. I decide what to do with it. Mama Rutendo's smug expression hardened. Disrespectful. How dare you challenge your husband? You know your place. Your refusal insults the family, insults me, she snapped. Tawanda's hands slammed down on the table, so hard the cutlery rattled. "Don't make me repeat myself, Aisha," he shouted. "You're acting like a child. Do what you're told." Aisha felt a wave of panic, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her heart pounded in her chest, yet she refused to back down. "I am not a child, and I am not your mother's bank account," she said, her eyes locked on. "I won't give up my life for anyone's greed." The room fell into chaos. Threats flew from Tawanda like bullets. Each one aimed to scare her into submission. Mama Rotendo leaned forward, her voice dripping with venom, weaving stories of family duty and tradition to manipulate her. They tried everything: guilt, fear, intimidation. But Aisha's resolve only grew stronger. Tears pricked at her eyes, but not from weakness. They came from the weight of betrayal and the shock of realizing that the people she trusted most had turned against her. Her home, her marriage, the family she had once loved. All of it now felt like a trap designed to strip her of her hard-earned independence. Aisha took a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew one thing: she would not give in. No amount of shouting, slamming, or guilt could make her hand over what she had built. This was bigger than money. It was her life, her dignity, and she would fight to protect it, even if it meant standing alone against them. Aisha's heart sank as Tawanda's face twisted with anger. She had refused him again, standing firm on her decision to protect the life she had built with her own hands. But now she realized she had underestimated how far he was willing to go. "Pack your things," Tawanda ordered coldly, his voice stripped of any affection or hesitation. There was no discussion, no negotiation, just a command. Aisha's mind raced. Her clothes, her documents, her business papers, everything she had worked for. How could he even think he had the right to throw her out? Before she could react, two of his cousins appeared, silently moving toward her with a determination that sent chills down her spine. They grabbed her suitcases and began dragging them toward the gate. "Wait! Stop!" Aisha shouted, running after them, but Tawanda's gaze was hard, immovable. He didn't budge. Everything happened so fast. Her bedroom, once her sanctuary, was emptied before her eyes. Her possessions, her life's work, memories, and essentials, were carried out to the gate like she was a stranger, like she belonged nowhere. Panic and disbelief collided inside her. Standing on the dusty roadside, under the faint glow of the streetlights, Aisha looked at her home one last time. The walls she had painted, the furniture she had chosen, the garden she had nurtured, all of it now felt like someone else's property. She felt a lump in her throat, her knees weak. Tears streamed down her face, blurring the streetlights into long streaks. The night was silent except for the rustle of her suitcases rolling over the stone. A mix of anger, hurt, and betrayal surged through her. How could the man she had trusted, the person she had shared her life with, turn into this? How could the woman who had pretended to love her now smile at her pain? Yet, amid the heartbreak, a tiny spark of resolve ignited. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, taking a shaky breath. No, this would not be her ending. She refused to let their cruelty define her, to let their greed erase all she had built. Aisha's spirit, battered but unbroken, began to rise. The night air was cold, but with each step away from the gate, she felt something growing stronger inside her: determination. They could take her house for now, but they could never take her courage, her mind, or her will to fight. Standing there on the empty road, Aisha made a promise to herself. She would reclaim everything, and she would do it with her dignity intact. This was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of a fight she was determined to win. Aisha walked into Naledi's small but cozy apartment, still holding the strap of her suitcase, as if it were a lifeline. The night outside was quiet, but inside, the warmth hit her like a soft embrace. Naledi, her childhood friend, hugged her tightly. "I'm so glad you're here," she said. "You can stay as long as you need." Aisha sank onto the couch, exhaustion and grief washing over her. I don't know what to do anymore," she admitted, her voice trembling. "He threw me out my own home." Naledi sat beside her, her expression serious but calm. "Aisha, listen to me. You are not powerless. What happened to you is wrong, and it's not the end. You have rights, and you have proof of everything. You just need to fight back." Aisha looked at her friend, unsure. "Fight back? Against him? His family? I don't even know where to start." Naledi leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "You remember all the stories I told you from work? Women who thought they were safe, women who trusted their husbands and in-laws, and then suddenly, poof, their savings, their homes, their businesses gone? Tawanda's family has a history like that. They target independent women, women who've worked hard and built something for themselves. You're not the first, but you can be the one who stops them." The words sank into Aisha's mind, mixing fear with a spark of anger she hadn't felt since the night she was thrown out. For the first time, she thought maybe she could fight back. Maybe she didn't have to be the victim. Naledi clapped her hands softly. "Let's start with what we know. Your house, your business, your savings. Everything is in your name. You just need to show it, prove it, and make sure the law is on your side. And you have receipts, contracts, bank statements, deeds, right? Aisha nodded, her fingers brushing over the small tablet she had tucked in her bag. Yes. I kept copies of everything in my cloud. Every payment, every property document, every transaction. I saved it all. Perfect, Naledi said, smiling for the first time that night. We'll organize it, make a plan, and make sure no one can touch what's yours. You're not alone in this. And trust me, once we get started, Tawanda and his family won't know what hit them. Aisha felt a flicker of hope. She began pulling out her tablet, opening folders, and going through each document carefully. Receipts for house payments, proof of business profits, bank statements. Everything she had painstakingly stored. Every piece of paper, every digital file was a weapon, a shield, a reminder of what she had built herself. As the night deepened, the two friends worked side by side, going over each detail, planning every step. Aisha's fear was still there, lingering like a shadow, but beneath it, something stronger was growing, determination. For the first time since being thrown out, she felt a sense of control returning. She realized that this fight was not just about money. It was about respect, justice, and reclaiming her life. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the windows, Aisha had made a promise to herself. She would not let them win. This was the start of her comeback, and nothing would stop her. Naledi didn't waste any time the next morning. She took Aisha to the office of Advocate Cabello Sarima, a lawyer she trusted completely. Cabello had a reputation in Gaborone for being fearless. He had exposed several cases where families tried to steal from women, and he never lost. As they entered his office, Aisha felt a mix of hope and nerves. Cabello stood as they walked in, his sharp eyes scanning Aisha as if he could see her entire story just from looking at her. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Start from the beginning, and don't leave out a single detail." Aisha took a deep breath and began. She told him about the spa day, Tawanda's call, the ambush at home, the demands from Mama Rotendo, and the night she was thrown out of her own house. She spoke about her business, the savings she had painstakingly built, and how every piece of property, every bank account, every transaction had been hers from the start. Cabello listened quietly, jotting down notes. Occasionally, he would glance up, his expression growing more intense. "This is serious," he said finally. "I've seen cases like this, but this is blatant. The house is in your name. The business is yours. And there's proof that he has been spending your money without permission. This is not just theft, it's financial abuse, plain and simple." Aisha felt a flicker of relief. For the first time, someone was looking at her not with doubt or pity, but with clear understanding and determination. Cabello leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "We're going to do this carefully. Tawanda and his mother will try to manipulate, lie, and intimidate. But they can't fight facts. We'll use the documents you've kept, the receipts, the bank statements, property deeds, even any messages that show his demands and threats. They've given us all the tools we need." He paused, his eyes locking on hers. "I will set a legal trap for them. They won't even see it coming. By the time we're done, the court will have no choice but to acknowledge that this house, this business, and your money are yours. And Tawanda and his mother will face the consequences of their actions." Aisha's heart raced. It felt like a weight had lifted off her shoulders, but at the same time, a fire ignited inside her. She realized that she wasn't just going to get her home back. She was going to stand up to years of manipulation and threats. Naledi smiled at her, squeezing her hand. "See, you're not alone. You have a lawyer who knows what he's doing, and you have proof that nothing they say can hold up." Cabello began organizing the documents Aisha had brought, reviewing every receipt, deed, and statement. As they worked, Aisha felt her fear slowly turning into determination. She realized that the storm that had begun the night she was thrown out was about to meet a force they had never expected. Her courage, her proof, and a lawyer who refused to be intimidated. For the first time in days, Aisha dared to hope. She wasn't just a victim. She was about to take control of her life again, and this time, no one would stand in her way. Aisha walked into the courtroom feeling a mix of nerves and determination. The room smelled of polished wood and old paper, and the chatter of lawyers and clerks filled the air. Tawanda was already there, sitting confidently with Mama Rotendo by his side. His smug smile made Aisha's blood boil, but she forced herself to stay calm. He looked as if he thought culture and family loyalty would automatically protect him, and he couldn't have been more wrong. The proceedings began, and Tawanda's lawyer started talking about tradition, insisting that Aisha had no right to control her money independently. Mama Rotendo even took the stand, her voice steady as she lied under oath. "We built the house together," she claimed, her eyes on Aisha, daring her to challenge the story. Everything was a family effort. Aisha's money was never hers alone. Aisha gritted her teeth, but she trusted Cabello. When it was their turn, Cabello stood, his presence commanding the entire room to pay attention. "Your Honor," he began, "let's look at the facts." He laid out Aisha's meticulously organized documents. Bank transfers proving she had paid every mortgage installment, title deeds showing the house was registered solely in her name, business accounts proving that every profit was hers, and even recorded messages in which Tawanda demanded she hand over her money. The courtroom fell silent as Cabello methodically presented evidence of years of financial manipulation and abuse. Mama Rotendo shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and for the first time, Tawanda looked uncertain. His confident smile faltered as Cabello's evidence painted a clear picture. Aisha had earned everything herself, and Tawanda and his mother had no legal claim to any of it. The judge, an imposing figure with a reputation for zero tolerance for fraud, slammed his gavel. "This is outrageous," he exclaimed. "Lying under oath is a serious offense, and attempting to seize property that is not legally yours is a crime. I will not tolerate such deception in my courtroom." Tawanda tried to speak, to argue, but Cabello anticipated it. With a calm but cutting tone, he dismantled every lie Tawanda and Mama Rotendo had told. The evidence was undeniable. Every bank statement, every title deed, every message left no room for doubt. Tawanda's lies began to crumble, and Mama Rotendo's confident facade cracked completely. Aisha felt a rush of relief wash over her. The tension that had weighed her down for weeks started to lift. She could feel justice in the room, a sense of balance being restored. Cabello had turned the entire case on its head. By the end of the day, the courtroom had witnessed a dramatic reversal. What began as a battle of intimidation and tradition ended with truth and proof prevailing. Aisha's perseverance, combined with Cabello's sharp strategy, had exposed the deception completely. For the first time in weeks, she knew that reclaiming her home and her life was no longer a question. It was inevitable. Aisha's phone buzzed with a message from Cabello. The judgment had been delivered. The court had ruled in her favor. Tawanda was to leave her property within 48 hours, and Mama Rotendo was legally banned from coming near her. A mix of relief, triumph, and lingering tension swept over her as she stared at the screen. This was it, the moment she had been fighting for. When she returned to her house, the sight was heartbreaking. The front gate creaked as she pushed it open, and her eyes swept across the living room. Furniture was scratched and knocked out of place, cushions lay on the floor, and her clothes were scattered as if a storm had passed through. For a moment, memories of the nights spent with Tawanda and even the early days of her marriage flashed through her mind. She felt a pang of sadness, but pushed it aside. Stepping carefully over the mess, she took a deep breath. This was her home, her sanctuary, and finally, it was truly hers again. She ran her fingers over the edge of the scratched table and smiled faintly. Tawanda and his mother could have tried to destroy the physical space, but they had never touched her spirit. That had remained untouchable, and it would stay that way. Aisha moved from room to room, picking up her belongings, stacking her clothes neatly, and examining the damages. She realized something important. This house was more than walls and furniture. It was a symbol of everything she had built, her struggles, her victories, and her independence. She didn't just want to clean it. She wanted to transform it, to erase the bitterness and reclaim every corner with her own strength. Over the next few days, she started redesigning her home. She painted walls in fresh colors, rearranged furniture to suit her vision, and added touches that reflected her personality and taste. Every decision was hers alone, a silent declaration of freedom. She played music she loved, burned scented candles, and allowed herself to enjoy the peace she had fought so hard to regain. Friends visited to help and celebrate with her. Their encouragement made her feel lighter, like a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Aisha even started a small corner in her living room dedicated to her business plans and personal growth, a daily reminder of her resilience. That night, as she sat in her newly arranged living room, sipping tea and listening to the quiet hum of the city outside, she felt a profound sense of victory. The house was still imperfect, yes, but it was hers. Her dignity, her courage, and her independence had returned stronger than ever. She realized that reclaiming her home wasn't just about bricks and mortar, it was about reclaiming herself. For the first time in weeks, Aisha smiled without restraint. The storm had passed, but the lessons it left behind had made her stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. Her home was more than a place. It was her fortress, her statement, and the beginning of a new, empowered chapter in her life. A few days after reclaiming her home, Aisha was enjoying a quiet morning when she heard a knock at the gate. Curious, she opened it to see Tawanda standing there, his face pale, eyes red, and lips trembling. For a moment, she couldn't believe her eyes. The man who had thrown her out, humiliated her, and demanded control over her life now looked broken. I need to talk to you," he stammered, his voice shaky. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "Please just hear me out." Aisha crossed her arms and looked at him steadily. She had already imagined this moment in her mind 100 times, but reality felt different. There was no warmth in her chest, no relief, only a calm clarity. "You have 2 minutes," she said, her tone firm. Tawanda fell to his knees, grabbing her hands. "Aisha, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. My mother, she pressured me. I didn't know what to do. I love you. Please forgive me. We can fix this. I'll change, I promise." Aisha felt a flicker of emotion, a whisper of the past love she had felt for him, but she quickly pushed it aside. She remembered the nights she had spent crying quietly, the humiliation, the fear, the way he had dismissed her hard work as if it didn't matter. Love wasn't supposed to hurt like that. "Love?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with disbelief. "Is this love? Threatening me, trying to take everything I worked for, letting your mother dictate my life, and then expecting me to forgive you with a few tears?" Tawanda tried to reach for her again, desperation in every gesture. "Aisha, please. I was wrong. I'll never do it again. I can't live without you." She pulled her hands away and took a step back. The memories of betrayal, fear, and humiliation rose up stronger than any sympathy. She saw through his act, his guilt, his attempt to use romance as a weapon. This was the same man who had tried to destroy her independence, and now he expected her to forget everything because he cried? "No, Tawanda," she said firmly. "You can cry, beg, and promise all you want, but I cannot return to a marriage where my independence is seen as a threat, where my life, my money, and my choices are not respected. I will not allow myself to be treated as less than what I am." Tawanda's tears continued, but Aisha's resolve remained unshaken. She realized that forgiveness was not weakness, but returning to that same pain would be. She had fought too hard, bled too much, and grown too strong to let him back into her life just because he suddenly realized his mistakes. Aisha closed the gate gently but firmly, her heart calm. She turned back into her home, feeling the walls surround her like a shield. The chapter with Tawanda had ended, and she was walking forward, untouched, wiser, and free. She didn't need his apology to validate her life. She only needed herself. Aisha felt a new energy coursing through her as she stood in her home office, the space she had redesigned with her own hands. The pain of the past months had faded, replaced by purpose. She was ready to turn her experience into something bigger than herself. With Naladi's help, Aisha launched a women's empowerment project in Gaborone. She organized workshops teaching financial literacy, independence, and legal protection for women who, like her, had faced threats to their savings, homes, or businesses. Her story of courage and resilience became the heart of the program, inspiring countless women to stand up for themselves. Within weeks, her journey went viral across social media in Southern Africa. Videos of her speaking at workshops, interviews, and even simple posts about her fight against financial abuse were shared thousands of times. Women from different cities and countries messaged her, calling her brave, a role model, and a voice for the silence. Men debated her boldness, some skeptical, others impressed by her courage, but the conversation only amplified her message. One evening, as she addressed a packed hall of eager learners, Aisha looked around at the faces of women who were determined to reclaim control of their lives. She smiled and said, "Money doesn't destroy family. Greed does. Stand firm, protect your independence, and never let anyone make you feel less than what you are." The applause was thunderous. Aisha felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her struggle had transformed into a force for change. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a leader, a mentor, and a symbol of strength. Walking home later that night, she felt untouchable, wiser, and unstoppable. Her life had shifted from fear to freedom, from pain to purpose. Aisha knew the future was hers to shape, and this time, nothing could stand in her way.